Hello everyone, it's David again, and I'm calling to let everyone, or first off, I should say, I'm going to let everyone know that I have done an update for November 1st of 2021, and I've got that separately in a different playlist. So this one does the commentary on Season 2, Episode 5, titled The Long Dark. If you want more news updates, something that you don't have to spend half an hour watching, I'm going to have that separately in a different playlist. So news updates on one list, commentaries in another list. So, Season 2, Episode 5, called The Long Dark. We start to see a little spaceship coming into view, and the spaceship on the side says it's from the USS Copernicus. And we all know that that's the ship that kind of came from 100 years ago. It was sent off before right before humans had developed jump gate technology and had met the Centauri first, then got jump gate technology. So, right before they left, or right before that happened, a ship took off, people in deep freeze. All of a sudden we zip on over and we're down below, and there's a guy who is mentally not doing very well. We can tell that he's running around screaming, "It's coming through! It's coming through the walls!" And he goes to a porthole and starts praying very badly. Now, I'm not Catholic, I'm Lutheran, but even I know the differences between a lot of the prayers, and poor guy got it completely wrong. Most of you will probably know him as Reginald Barclay from Star Trek, Reginald Barclay III from the Star Trek series. I remember him mostly as Mad Dr. Murdoch from the original A-Team. His real name is Dwight Schultz, Schultz. He's born November 24th, 1947. He is now 73. He's 6'1" or 1.85 meters. Quick question. Do you guys think he'll be in the new one? That'd be interesting to see what he might end up doing. JMS has posted, though, that he won't be talking about actors and other things that may or may not show up on the new series. So we're going to have to guess completely on our own. We are also introduced to Anne-Marie Johnson, and she plays Mariah. Anne-Marie is 61 years old. She's 5'11" or 1.8 meters. Both she and Dwight Schultz have a list, a laundry list of things that they've done as far as videos and like sci-fi series and movies and stuff. So I'll leave that to you to look up on your own if you're interested, because I could probably spend an hour on Dwight Schultz's CV just by himself. He's done a lot of stuff. So Anne-Marie, or Mariah Cirrus I should say, has been on a deep range exploration, and it took off over 100 years ago. And it's kind of one of those, what would happen if, you know, you take off, because they are, I guess they're still selling these kinds of things on like SpaceX and stuff, aren't they, where they'll cryogenically freeze you when you're dead and then zip you on, and hopefully in 100 or 200 years they'll have, you know, the medicine to cure whatever problems you might have. I remember an episode of The Next Generation, Star Trek, where Dr. Crusher woke up a bunch of people from our time period, people with problems that for us are deadly, like brain cancer, or I think one of them had lung cancer from smoking too much, and she just went ahead and fixed them all, and, you know, was in under like half an hour, I think, and, you know, and I know they also touched on one episode where one guy was trying to steal some technology from today's Enterprise and zip it back through time. You know, imagine how much money you could make if you could go forward in time, say 300 years, and come back with the cure for AIDS or Ebola or the plandemic. And yes, I did deliberately mangle that pronunciation, because if I say the actual word, that ends up getting my video put in timeout while they scrutinize it for naughty stuff that you're not supposed to put in, this sort of thing. So you'll hear me mangle that word quite often, and yes, I know exactly how it's supposed to sound, but in order to keep my video out of timeout, I'm going to go ahead and just mangle the word, and I'm sure you're all smart enough to figure out why. As this Copernicus is zipping on through space, they kind of grab a hold of it, bring it on board Babylon5, and this big, like, whoosh comes out, and it's kind of like, I wonder what we awoke. Kind of like, it sounds like the, King Tutankhamun, when they opened up his tomb. There was supposed to have been this big whoosh of air, an air that's thousands of years old, and supposedly held the King Tut's curse and all of that stuff. Kind of whooshed forward and took its revenge. I'm wondering if that's kind of what JMS is alluding to here, that they opened up the curse. We zip on over, and this guy named Amos, aka Dwight Schultz, is detoxing, and he's got a nasty case of PTSD, as we would call it. This, mind you, this is filmed not too long after the '91 Persian Gulf War, and now that the Afghanistan war is over and done with, we're fixing to have a lot of PTSD problems among our veterans, and I think JMS is kind of alluding to the fact that they're still having that problem in 2259, or is it 2260, I think it is, that people are still having problems. We haven't cured PTSD, obviously. Because this guy Amos is obviously he was a GROPO, a ground pounder. If anyone in the military can explain that one to me, can you please do it down below in the commentary, because where that term came from and exactly who fits. Is it just U.S. Army, or would the Marines fit that, or would a Navy SEAL fit that terminology, or what? So anyone who's in the military can kind of clue me in on that and where that came from. That would be really helpful. We zip on over, and Mariah is waking up in med lab. And her husband was the guy in the other tube, and he sadly is never going to wake up because he is missing all of his organs. As we now know, an agent of darkness gets on board the ship and sucked all of his organs dry, and is just kind of snacking on Mariah until it can find a good food source. The Copernicus, this beast, ends up reprogramming the Copernicus to head towards the outer rim. What the beast didn't realize is that it was also programmed to home in on any signals that it might encounter and then wake up the other people. Otherwise, it would have just zipped on by Babylon5, continuing toward its destination at sublight speed, which is very interesting, because I'm sure that would have taken a hell of a long time to get at sublight speed from even Babylon5 to the edge of the rim. But we also find out, because when Mariah is told this, of course, she becomes very upset. But she says, I can't cry, and it says long-term stasis dries the tear ducts. So if you encounter that bit of trivia, now you know where it came from. So evidently long-term stasis dries the tear ducts. We zip on over. Amos is down below, and he recognizes that creature from the Copernicus. He encountered it on a moon during the Earth Minbari War. Now, this creature is supposedly, find out later that it's heading towards Zahadum. That's going to take it a very long time, and it, in fact, was heading out there, Amos and his moon during the Earth Minbari War, which was 12 years earlier. So that, to me, says that the shadows were gathering their forces even before they were woken up by Morden and the Icarus. That it was, they were kind of rousting everything around, because the Earth Minbari War was 12 years before this all supposed to have happened. So obviously on some signal or some predetermined time program, that kind of lends credence to my theory of every 1,000 years the shadows wake up, instead of, you know, that there can be wide variations in that timeline, because otherwise how would this creature know to wake up and start heading towards sublight speed towards Ahadum? My theory. What's yours? Go ahead and put that one down below, and see what you can come up with. Let's see here. And we find out also, because Dr. Franklin's talking with Mariah just right after she left Earth. A few years later, we were contacted by the Centauri, you know, and she's trying to figure out, you know, where the hell did all these aliens come from? You know, it's kind of, if we were to go back in 100 years in time and grab somebody forward to our time period, and all of a sudden our time period involves aliens, how would you explain that to someone from, you know, I mean, Dr. Franklin goes over a little bit of the Earth time period. We get a little bit of a snippet about the Dilgar War, which we won, and the Minbari War he kind of waffles on. And of course, I'm not going to regurgitate that whole thing, because we all know that that's quite a long story to tell. Jakar goes to say hello to Mariah, shakes her hand, and says, you know, go back to the past. The future isn't what it used to be. Another mem there. And she ends up screaming and passing out from the after effects of this creature. I guess it was also using her to snack on. And she wakes up in Dr. Franklin's quarters. Now, this one brings to me a sensitive subject. I'm sure if you've watched my commentaries by now, you know I used to be a registered nurse and worked in the medical field for 18.5 years until my back blew out on me. Now, I've seen it happen before where patients fall in love with their nurses or their doctors. And I can tell you right now, if any of you are in the medical field, for God's sakes, never date one of your patients. And if you, and a lot of the patients also, if you're going to the hospital or something, don't fall in love with your doctor or your nurse, okay? They're not being pleasant to you because they love you, okay? They're being pleasant to you because that's their job. And we're also being pleasant to you because, you know, and you're also under the duty of, or influence of heavy-duty narcotics a lot of times. And so people think because you're being nice to them and you're giving them heavy-duty narcotics that you must be in love with them. And yes, I have had patients ask me out on dates. No, I have never dated one of my patients, okay? I've seen a few people who have, and I can tell you right now, it always, 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 always ends in a disaster. And I'm sure you've all probably heard the adage is never date your doctor, never date your nurse. Now this kind of is touching over on, if any of you have seen the show 90 Day Fiancé, it's a show basically about fat, ugly Americans like me who go overseas trying to look for love because we're too lazy to get it from just down the block. There's one lady named Angela Deem, D-E-E-M. Now, if you've never seen it before, Angela Deem is one of those people, if you could take every single bad quality about an American and put it into one person, that one person would be Angela Deem. Now, I have weight issues too, so I'm not going to, you know, sit there and brag, but she's, you know, out loud, obnoxious, ignorant. I mean, it's just a nasty, nasty person. And she falls in love with a Nigerian, okay, who is many years her junior. will, some of the money, because the money, the purveyors of the show can only pay the Americans. If you're not an American citizen, they can't pay you money. So she gets all the money from all the appearances on the show, and of course she's had now liposuction, gastric bypass, and is alleged to have slept with one of her doctors, Dr. Michael Obang. Dr. Obang, if by some miracle you watch this video here, you are the world's dumbest moron, if in fact that's true. Because there are plenty of cameras and even producers who've seen, turn around and saw what happened. Supposedly it was his birthday party, and she goes to his birthday party. Why would you go to your doctor's birthday party? I've been a nurse for many years. I have never invited one of my patients or their family members or their relatives to one of my... That's just, everybody knows, that's just crossing the line. And supposedly Dr. Obang is now in the midst of a divorce, and his soon-to-be ex-wife has figured out what's going on. And if she ever puts Angela Deem under, if her lawyer ever gets her under deposition, Angela, I promise you, will crack like an egg. And if that happens, Dr. Obang, your doctor's license in the United States is done. It's over with. You can count it goodbye. Because everybody knows you can't do that. It's unethical. It's against the... I'm almost positive you would just have to slap me across the face if it wasn't, you know, against the Medical Practice Act in the states that you practice in, Dr. Obang. And Angela Deem doesn't care. All she gets is just one notch in her lipstick case. And supposedly now she's flirting with another one of her doctors. And oh my God. Yes, I've seen it where nurses and doctors have fallen in love with one of their patients, and they've dated them, and you're playing with fire when that happens, okay? And this directly says, you know, Dr. Franklin crosses that line, or he dances right on that line of having a relationship with his patient, and it's like, oh, dude, really? You know, everybody knows that you can't do that. Anyway, the creature that came aboard with Mariah on the Copernicus, he ends up attacking and killing an alien. The non-aligned worlds ask for a meeting, and they talk about a soldier of darkness from the past, and the Markab ambassador, surprisingly enough, says evil sometimes wears a pleasant face. Yeah, there's a mem there for you, trust me. But it talks about a soldier of darkness from the past who's come alive and is now marching towards the Rim. And we all know that that place is Zahadum. So, he talks about, zip on over. Garibaldi walks in and wants Amos to show him where this alien is, because he can evidently... Amos has been snacked on by this alien during the Earth Minbari War, and so that somehow gives him a mind-body connection to where he can track this alien down. So he tries, and in fact does, track down this alien beast. And after a while, they break out the heavy weapons, so if you're in for a little firefight, if you like those kinds of scenes like I do, there's a little bit of a firefight in there, and this nasty-looking creature ends up getting zapped and dies. That's when Ivanova has gone through the Copernicus, and she finds out that it was, in fact, headed towards Zahadu, the place that Jakar has been warning about. And sure enough, we end the episode on Jakar is reading and praying by the Book of Jaquan from 1,000 years earlier, and sure enough there is a drawing that bears an uncanny resemblance to the Soldier of Darkness. So, a little bit to chew on there. What do you think about this episode? To me, the episode spoke kind of a little bit on the timeline of the shadows are now slowly gathering their forces to unleash them for their nefarious purposes. And it speaks also a little bit to the ever-vexing and continual problem of people falling in love with their nurses and their doctors, okay? And I spoke quite a bit about that because I've had not so much my patients, but their family members ask me out on a date, and I just, say I'm very flattered, but my hospital just won't allow me to date a patient or their family members. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. And they're very accepting of that and very gracious and gone away happy, I guess. But have any of you ever had an episode like that where you kind of get that forbidden love thing going on? If that has happened, what was your experience? And talk about it below in the comment section. So anyways, this November 1st when I'm posting this, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hope you have a good rest of your day.